Frederick II Hohenstaufen. Constance had been confined to Santissimo Salvatore, Palermo as a nun from childhood due to a prediction that her marriage would destroy Sicily, according to Giovanni Boccaccio, 1313–1375, related in his De Mulieribus Claris, concerning famous women. Boccaccio was an Italian writer and poet who, together with Dante Alighieri, c. 1265–1321, and Petrarch, 1304–1374, is part of the so-called Three Crowns of Italian literature. Dante's Divine Comedy is widely considered the most important poem of the Middle Ages and the greatest literary work in the Italian language. 49. Dante's Divine Comedy is widely considered the most important poem of the Middle Ages and the greatest literary work in the Italian language. 50. Dante, who like most Florentines of his day was embroiled in the Guelph, Ghibelline conflict, fought in the Battle of Campaldino of 1289, with the Florentine Guelphs against Arezzo Ghibellines. During the period of his exile, Dante corresponded with Dominican theologian Father Nicholas Brunaxi op. 1240–1322, who had been a student of Thomas Aquinas at the Santa Sabina Studium in Rome, later at Paris, and of Albert the Great at the Cologne Studium. 51. In the Divine Comedy, Dante places both William I and Margaret's son, William II of Sicily, and Joachim of Fiore in paradise. It is suggested that Joachim of Fiore's image of God as three interlaced rings inspired Dante. 52. Boccaccio was a promoter of Dante's work and figure and devoted himself to copying codes of the Divine Comedy. Boccaccio's other most notable works is the Decameron, sometimes nicknamed El Humana Commedia, the Human Comedy, as it was Boccaccio that dubbed Dante's Comedy Divine. Boccaccio's subtitle, Principe Galeotto, refers to Galeot, a fictional king portrayed in the Vulgate cycle, who was a close friend of Lancelot and an enemy of King Arthur. It was Galeot's matchmaking that resulted in the love affair between Lancelot and Arthur's wife, Guinevere. In Inferno, Dante compares these fictional lovers with the real-life couple of Francesca da Rimini and Paolo Malatesta. In Inferno, Dante fictionalizes their relationship, where Francesca and Paolo find mutual passion by reading of Lancelot and Guinevere. In 1196, Constance summoned Joachim to Palermo to hear her confession in the Palatine Chapel. 53. Frederick Barbarossa had died in 1190, and the following year Henry and Constance were crowned emperor and empress. At Henry IV's death in 1197, his son Frederick II, 1194–1250, was hastily brought back to his mother Constance in Palermo, where he was crowned King of Sicily on May 17, 1198, at just 3 years of age. Frederick II's birth was also associated with the prophecy of Merlin. According to Andrea Dandolo, 1306–1354, the 54th Doge of Venice, writing at some distance but probably recording contemporary gossip, Henry doubted reports of his wife's pregnancy and was only convinced by consulting Joachim of Fiore, who confirmed that Frederick was his son by interpretation of Merlin's prophecy and the Erythraean Sibyl. 54. King Arthur and Merlin are first recorded in Italy in 1191, the year of Henry V's coronation, and the same year that Arthur's supposed tomb was discovered in Glastonbury, as reported by Gerald of Wales. It was in that year that Godfrey of Viterbo, c. 1120, c. 1196, completed his pantheon, which includes Italy's first Arthurian legend. Godfrey's work was inspired by the Prophetia Merlini, Prophecies of Merlin, a Latin work of Geoffrey of Monmouth circulated, from about 1130, and by 1135. The work contains a number of prophecies attributed to Merlin, which Geoffrey claims to have based on older Britannic traditions, some of which may have been oral but now lost. The Prophetia preceded Geoffrey's larger Historia Regum Britanniae of circa 1136, and was mostly incorporated in it, in Book 7. The prophecies, however, were influential and widely circulated in their own right. Millennial expectations had already been inspired by the speculations of Joachim of Fiore, whose influence led to the identification of the emperor as the enemy of the Antichrist. In 1190-01, Richard Lionheart and courtiers met with Joachim of Fiore in Messina, who expounded on his belief that the Antichrist was now 15 years old and on his way to becoming Pope, Gregory IX. In this context, Godfrey's history focused on Merlin to express the expectation of Arthur's return. According to Martin B. Schichtman and James P. Carley, while Godfrey might have had his patron Henry IV in mind, his praise is merely a prologue to the celebration of his son Frederick II. 55 When Frederick was born, his birth was greeted as a miracle, and Godfrey, in his Friederici iet Heinrici 6, regarded the boy as Stupor Mundi, and the future savior foretold of prophets, the time-fulfilling Caesar. Similarly, his contemporary Peter of Eboli, flourished c. 1196-1220, updated Virgil's fourth eclogue to announce the miraculous birth of the child. Both Dandolo and Salimbeni, 1221, c. 1290, an Italian Franciscan friar and chronicler, recorded that it had been necessary for Henry VI to call upon his friend, Joachim of Fiore to lend the appropriate support the prophecies of Merlin. Dandolo adds that in 1196, Henry VI was concerned about the legitimacy of his wife's pregnancy until Joachim assured him the child was his. The prophecy is found in the Pseudo-Joachim's Exposito Abbatis Joachim Super Sibyllus et Merlino, a gloss on the earlier Dicta Merlini, sayings of Merlin, which deal with the clash between Frederick II and the Pope. In a dialogue recorded in Salimban's Chronicle, when Brother Peter accuses Jochite Brother Hugh of relying on the authority of soothsayers and magicians, Hugh responds by claiming that the words of the Sibyl and Merlin and Joachim are not scorned by the Church but received gladly, in so far as they are good, useful, and true words. Brother Hugh also attests to the truth of Merlin's prophecies about Frederick II, and provides a precise exegesis of proofs provided in the Dicta. 56. Frederick was also King of Germany from 1212, King of Italy and Holy Roman Emperor from 1220 and King of Jerusalem from 1225. His other royal title was King of Jerusalem by virtue of marriage and his connection with the Sixth Crusade. Historian Donald Detweiler wrote, "A man of extraordinary culture, energy, and ability, called by a contemporary chronicler Stupor Mundi, the wonder of the world, by Nietzsche the first European, and by many historians the first modern ruler, Frederick established in Sicily and southern Italy something very much like a modern, centrally governed kingdom with an efficient bureaucracy." 57. Speaking 6 languages, including Latin, Sicilian, Middle High German, Langues d'Oil, Greek, and Arabic, Frederick II was an avid patron of science and the arts. Frequently at war with the papacy, which was surrounded by Frederick's lands in northern Italy and his kingdom of Sicily to the south, he was excommunicated 3 times and often denounced in pro-papal chronicles of the time and after. Pope Gregory IX went so far as to call him an antichrist. According to the Italian Franciscan chronicler Salimbeni, 1221, c. 1290, of faith in God he had none. He was crafty, wily, avaricious, lustful, malicious, wrathful, and yet a gallant man times, when he would show his kindness or courtesy, full of solace jocund, delightful, fertile in devices. 58 A Damascene chronicler, Sabd ibn al-Jawzi, c. 1185-1256, described, the emperor was covered with red hair, was bald and myopic. Had he been a slave, he would not have fetched 200 dirhams at market. Frederick's eyes were described variously as blue, or green like those of a serpent. 59. Frederick II employed Jews from Sicily, who had immigrated there from the Holy Land, at his court to translate Greek and Arabic works. 60. His court was host to many astrologers and astronomers, including Michael Scott, 1175, c. 1232, and Guido Bonatti, d. between 1296 and 1300. Bonatti, who was the most celebrated astrologer of the 13th century, apparently advised Frederick II on military matters. 61 Scott, who was born somewhere in the border regions of Scotland or northern England, became famous as an astrologer and acquired a reputation as a wizard. From Paris, Scott went to Bologna, Palermo and Toledo where he learned Arabic. Frederick II attracted him to Sicily, where he undertook a translation of Aristotle and the Arabian commentaries from Arabic into Latin. The second version of Fibonacci's famous book on mathematics, Liber Abaci, was dedicated to Scott in 1227, and it has been suggested that Scott played a part in Fibonacci's presentation of the Fibonacci sequence. 62 Scott appears in Dante's Divine Comedy, in the fourth Balgia located in the eighth circle of hell, reserved for sorcerers, astrologers, and false prophets who claimed they could see the future when they, in fact, could not. Boccaccio represents him in the same light. Frederick II's first wife was Constance of Aragon, was the second child and eldest daughter of the 9 children of Alfonso II of Aragon and Sancha of Castile. His second wife was Isabella II of Jerusalem, the only child of Maria of Montferrat, Queen of Jerusalem, and John of Brienne. Maria was the daughter of Queen Isabella I of Jerusalem by her second husband Conrad I, and heiress, on her mother's death, of the Kingdom of Jerusalem. His third wife was Isabella of England, daughter of John, King of England, and his second wife Isabella of Angoulême. John was son of King Henry II of England and Duchess Eleanor of Aquitaine. After his death his line did not survive, and the House of Hohenstaufen came to an end. Furthermore, the Holy Roman Empire entered a long period of decline during the Great Interregnum from which it did not completely recover until the reign of Charles V, 250 years later. 63. 1 Otto Rahn. Crusade against the Grail, 1933. 2 Napier. A to Z of the Knights Templar. 3 Napier. Ibid. 4 Ibid. 5 Wilfred Lewis Warren. King John. Revised edition, University of California Press, 1978, p. 2. 6 J. C. Crick. Monmouth, Geoffrey of, d. 1154/5, Oxford Dictionary of National Biography, Oxford University Press, 2004. 7 Eleanor Shipley Duckett. Death and Life in the 10th Century, University of Michigan Press, 1967. 8 Horace K. Mann. The Lives of the Popes in the Middle Ages, Vol. 8, 1925, p. 235. 9 Ibid. 10 P. G. Biotenhals and Peter G. Biotenhals. Historia and Fabula, Myths and Legends in Historical Thought from Antiquity to the Modern Age. Brill Studies in Intellectual History, Brill Academic Publishers, 1997 p. 106. 11 H. G. Enelo. Andreas. Jewish Encyclopedia. 12 Joshua Schwartz and Marcel Pourthuis. Saints and Role Models in Judaism and Christianity, Brill Academic Publishers, 2004. p. 308. 13 Gertrude Landa. Jewish Fairy Tales and Legends, Mac May, 2009, p. 129. 14 P. G. Biotenhals and Peter G. Biotenhals. Historia and Fabula, Myths and Legends in Historical Thought from Antiquity to the Modern Age. Brill Studies in Intellectual History, Brill Academic Publishers, 1997 p. 106. 15 David B. Green. This Day in Jewish History / an Anti-Pope of Jewish Descent Dies. Haaretz, January 25, 2013. 16 Napier. A to Z of the Knights Templar, p. 47. 17 Queen Elvira de Leon, of Leon, born Castile, 965, 1017. Retrieved from https://www.myheritage.com/name/Elvira_Castile. 18 David Hatcher Childress. Pirates and the Lost Templar Fleet, Adventures Unlimited Press, 2003, p. 60. 19 Marjorie Chibnall. The Normans, Wiley and Sons, 2006, p. 86. 20 Robert Coleman. History of the Western Empire from its restoration by Charlemagne to the accession of Charles V, 1851, p. 192. 21 Jonathan Riley Smith. The Atlas of the Crusades, New York, Facts on File, 1991, p. 48. 22 Peter Morat. Heiligsreich, in Lexikon des Mittelalters, Munich and Zurich, Artemis 1977-1999, Volume 4, columns 2025-2028. 23 Jean Richard. The Crusades, c.1071-c.1291. Translated by Jean Birrell, Cambridge University Press, 1999, p. 165. 24 Simon Barton. The Aristocracy in 12th Century Leon and Castile, Cambridge University Press 1997, pages 126-28. 25 John France. The Crusades and the Expansion of Catholic Christendom, 1000-1714, Routledge, 2005. 26 Helen Nicholson. A Brief History of the Knights Templar, Constable and Robinson Limited, 2010, p. 102. 27 Luis Suarez Fernandez. Historia de España Antigua y Media, Madrid, Realp, 1976, p. 599. 28 Joseph Goering. The Virgin and the Grail, Origins of a Legend, Yale University Press, 2005, p. 152. 29 Stephen Runciman. The Sicilian Vespers, A History of the Mediterranean World in the Later 13th Century, Cambridge University Press, 2012, p. 7. 30 Lucia Travaini. Aspects of the Sicilian Norman copper coinage in the 12th century. The Numismatic Chronicle, 151, 1991, p. 167. 31 Lerner. The Feast of Saint Abraham, p. 27. 32 Hubert Hubin. Roger II of Sicily, ruler between East and West. Translated by Graham A. Loud and Diane Milburn, Cambridge, UK, University Press, 2002, 109. 33 Doxon Zivadinovic. The Origins and Antecedents of Joachim of Fiores, 1135-1202, Historical Continuous Method of Prophetic Interpretation. Historical Continuous Method of Prophetic Interpretation. Andrews University, 2018. 34 Ibid, p. 24. 35 Brett Whalen. Joachim of Fiore, Apocalyptic Conversion, and the Persecuting Society. History Compass 8/7, 2010. 36 Skolem. Kabbalah, p. 38. 37 Zivadinovic. The Origins and Antecedents of Joachim of Fiores, 1135-1202, Historical Continuous Method of Prophetic Interpretation. Historical Continuous Method of Prophetic Interpretation. 38 Ibid. 39 Borromean Rings in Christian Iconography. The Borromean Rings. Retrieved from https://web.archive.org/web/201244231546/http/www.lib.ac/spmr02/ring/trinity.html. 40 Charles Herbermann, ed. Peter de Blois. Catholic Encyclopedia, New York, Robert Appleton Company, 1913. 41 Hans E. Meyer. The Crusades, Oxford University Press, 1965, trans. John Gillingham, 1972, p. 139. 42 John Fried. Frederick Barbarossa, The Prince and the Myth, New Haven Court, Yale University Press, 2016, p. 471. 43 Ibid, pages 473-474. 44 Austin Lane Poole. From Domesday Book to Magna Carta, 1087 to 1216, 2nd ed. Oxford, UK, Clarendon Press, 1955, p. 296. 45 Matthias Riedel. A Companion of Joachim of Fiore, Leiden, Brill, 2017. p. 33. 46 Marjorie Reeves. The Influence of Prophecy in the Later Middle Ages, A Study in Joachimism, Oxford, UK, Clarendon Press, 1969, pages 7, 8. 47 Zavadinovic. The Origins and Antecedents of Joachim of Fiores, 1135 to 1202, Historical Continuous Method of Prophetic Interpretation. Historical Continuous Method of Prophetic Interpretation. 48 Ibid. 49 Prussia. Reading Dante, From Here to Eternity, New York, Live Right Publishing Corporation, 2014. pp. Introduction. 50 Ibid. 51 Eugenio Guerin. History of Italian Philosophy, VIBS, Rodopi, 2008, p. 85. 52 M. Reeves and B. Hirschreich. The Figure of Joachim of Fiore, Clarendon Press, Oxford, 1972. 53 Robert E. Lerner. The Feast of Saint Abraham, Medieval Millenarians and the Jews, University of Pennsylvania Press, 2001, p. 12. 54 T. C. Van Cleve. The Emperor Frederick II of Hohenstaufen, Immuntator Mundi, Oxford 1972, pages 13 to 16. 55 Daniel L. Hoffman. Was Merlin and Ghibelline. In Culture and the King, The Social Implications of the Arthurian Legend, ed. Martin B. Schichtman, James P. Carley, SUNY Press, 1994, p. 114. 56 Ibid, p. 114 to 118. 57 Donald S. Detweiler. Germany, A Short History, Southern Illinois University Press, 1999. p. 43. 58 Chronicle of Salim Bani, as translated and paraphrased by G. Colton. Retrieved from https://sourcebooks.fordham.edu/source/salimbani1.asp. 59 Sabt ibn al-Jaza. Murat al-Zaman, cited in Amin Malouf. The Crusades Through Arabis. J. Rothschild trans. Seiki Books, 2006, p. 230. 60 Vincenzo Salerno. Sicilian Peoples, The Jews of Sicily. Retrieved from http://www.bestofsicily.com/mag/art201.htm. 61 Nicholas Campion. The Medieval and Modern Worlds. A History of Western Astrology. 2. Continuum Books, 2009. 62 T.C. Scott and P. Marquitos. On the Origin of the Fibonacci Sequence, MacTutor History of Mathematics Archive, University of St. Andrews, March 2014. 63 David Abulafia. Frederick II, A Medieval Emperor, Penguin Press, 1988.